Le 18 in punto su London One Radio, siamo pronti per un'altra puntata di L'Avvocato Risponde e noi siamo insieme all'avvocato Edward Norton dello studio Giambrone Partners. Buonasera, bentornato.
Buongiorno, nice to see you again.
In questa trasmissione parleremo dell'importanza delle criptovalute nel mondo finanziario, anche nel mondo legale, se questo cambierà la burocrazia britannica. Tutto questo e molto altro dopo la nostra sigla. Qual è il mondo e il ruolo, soprattutto, avvocato Norton, delle criptovalute in questo momento storico? In this moment, do you see and do you view crypto as a financial revolution or more of a speculative bubble, as many experts are saying as well recently?
Yeah, so we see banks setting up their own stable coins, which tells you that they're aware to the fact that this is not going away. And we're also seeing a lot more regulation. So we're seeing regulation in the US. We're seeing Trump bring in the Genius Act. And obviously he's very pro-crypto. He has a lot of crypto and so does his family. That tells you a lot. And obviously they've got a lot of power and a lot of exposure. And then you've also got the EU, which has implemented legislation specifically to regulate crypto. And you've also got it in the UK, where it's coming in not on its own as a standalone piece of legislation, but actually integrating into the Financial Markets Act, and also regulation from the FCA. So really, well-established institutions getting involved.
E quello che ci sta dicendo l'avvocato Norton in questo momento è che sta diventando sempre di più una realtà, perché vediamo delle criptovalute che vengono sempre di più regolamentate, non soltanto in America, l'abbiamo visto nell'Unione Europea, ma ancora di più nel Regno Unito. Però il dubbio che molti iniziano, e anche le domande che alcuni iniziano a porsi, è se queste criptovalute inizieranno sempre di più a sfidare le attuali istituzioni finanziarie. What do you think about it?
Everybody was skeptical, and banks didn't necessarily want it being successful for the reasons that I said, as in they lose control. But I think they are now aware that it is not going away. People, there is something attracting people to this. And as a consequence, you're seeing the big banks, the big institutions actually heavily involved in Bitcoin themselves. And making their own coins. I said JP Morgan issued their own stable coin. So that tells you exactly where they are and how significant it's becoming.
Nella vita quotidiana di tutti i giorni non abbiamo tantissime persone, o la maggior parte, no, della popolazione che è familiare con le criptovalute, quindi come tutti noi dovremmo prepararci, dovremmo iniziare a capire la loro importanza.
Listen, I still think it's quite in its infancy, and as you say, it's not used in everyday life yet. I think it actually will be, and it will become an integral part of the way that commerce is done. There are already institutions that accept crypto payments. It is happening, probably not on a big scale right now. But as I say, as we move forward, as we see bigger, more reputable institutions getting involved, people are going to feel safer with the crypto, because obviously at the moment it's seen a quite a high risk investment, if you like.
But how to gain that knowledge? Because a lot of websites are talking about Bitcoins, but which are the ones that are basically trustworthy?
Look, I think if you're looking to invest, look at what the big institutions are doing. Look at what they're investing in. So you're looking more at stablecoin, which is, again, an online digital currency. But what does it do? It enables commerce between cross-border commerce without the fees. So obviously banks don't like that, because that's where they lose money. But then banks have, JP Morgan has created its own stablecoin. So, a safe bet might be stablecoin. I'm not a financial advisor, and I'm certainly not telling people what to do. Just put that in as a quick disclaimer. But yeah, I think that's probably something to look into if you are considering, investing in some sort of crypto. Stablecoin is sensible. It's pegged to the fiat currency.
But what common mistake do you see new investors are making right now when they basically want to enter into the crypto market?
You have to be careful with what you're doing. The biggest mistake you're going to get is people who think you can make massive gains. Now, the time to make massive gains in Bitcoin's probably come and gone. They were the guys who got in right at the beginning when it was worth nothing. And today, one Bitcoin's around the 100,000 mark. There would have been people who made a lot of money. I think, unfortunately, I think we're at a point where you're not going to make those massive gains anymore. Also, remember, it's a form of basically gambling. So don't invest anything you're basically not willing to lose in its entirety, because while it is becoming more stable, there's also a lot of risk. It's very highly volatile. The value is constantly going up and down. So I think look at it as a form of gambling. Don't look at it as a primary investment. Maybe get some money that you might have on the side, which you perhaps don't mind losing. And if you do that, I don't think you can really go wrong. I think where you really go wrong is where people think, they're going to become millionaires from it if they put in a small sum or even a big sum, people remortgaging, that kind of thing. It's a gamble. So if you're ready to lose what you invest, you can't go wrong. Bitcoin is probably the most sensible one, as opposed to meme coins, which aren't really anything significant and just basically become popular off of how many people have it and, whether it's endorsed by celebrities or all the rest of it. That's probably not a good way to go.
Ecco, quello che ci sta dicendo in questo momento l'avvocato Norton è che nonostante stia diventando comunque stabile, bisogna sempre restare attenti, perché se non vogliamo perdere qualcosa di valore a cui noi teniamo tantissimo, non investite su quelle cose, piuttosto su altri tipi di valori che per voi non sono importanti nella vostra vita. Però dovete sapere che comunque c'è un alto rischio, anche perché questi tipi di cripto è vero che stanno diventando sempre più comuni, ma comunque restano ancora del tutto un po' volatili. Ecco, bisogna stare molto attenti a quello che si fa. So, where do you see the crypto ecosystem in the next 10 years?
I think we'll be talking about it less as something new, a new technology which people don't really understand. And I think I may have mentioned before, I think it will become an integral part of commerce. You'll have the option, much as you have the option to pay by card or by check, you'll now have the option to pay by crypto, and there'll be certain advantages by doing that. But then, it might depend on what kind of business you're in as well. But I think, broadly speaking, it's going to really become integral, a big part of commerce, and just the next stage in the evolution of how we pay for things.
Ecco, questo è molto importante. Secondo l'avvocato Norton, tra 10 anni diventerà sempre più centrale l'importanza delle criptovalute, quindi diventerà sempre più comune nella nostra vita, tanto che sarà questo il nuovo metodo di anche pagamento. Voi fateci sapere cosa ne pensate allo 0792662397 e noi ringraziamo intanto l'avvocato Norton per essere stato qui con noi questa sera a L'Avvocato Risponde. Prima però di concludere, would you like even to understand in a legal point of view, what do you think about cryptocurrency? I mean, on a legal point of view.
Well, in the legal sector, Jambron law is involved in a lot of crypto fraud. In fact, we've been on the forefront of a lot of it. And, I worked in the BVI for a period. The courts are coming round to actually defining cryptocurrency as an asset, like any other asset. And in fact, the first declaration of this was made in a case which Jambron was instructed on. So officially right now, the legal position is that cryptocurrency is considered by the courts an assets, which mean that all of the sort of recovery processes are there as well, just as if it was, a house, which has been a big step forward for the courts, obviously making a definition like that, which has also been in the BVI and various other jurisdictions, is an indication of the sort of progress, natural life sort of story of crypto, if you like. But yeah, that's always moving very quickly, but is in a very, again, quite infancy, but making big progress.
There's been an increase of frauds of cryptocurrencies recently. If you have any type of estimate.
I think there's a recorded figure. I don't want to get it wrong. Something like 17 million, I think, in fraud. Obviously, look, it's a new technology, so there are going to be people who are going to get scammed, which again is why I come back to the point that look at when you're investing money as a gamble more than anything else. But actually, the great thing about crypto, one of the strange things about it is it's not actually very susceptible to that, because there's a blockchain, and on that blockchain there is a record of every single money transaction. And once the transaction is made, it can't be eradicated. Now there are tools around this, but there's actually, it's actually it's becoming a sort of solid way of being able to trace people, because it's just out in the open. It's decentralized. It's not controlled by anyone in particular. It's actually controlled by everybody who does transactions on the blockchain. So actually people are quite easy to identify, oddly.
Ecco, nonostante ci siano moltissime frodi, l'abbiamo visto dal punto di vista legale, come ci ha risposto l'avvocato Norton dello studio Giambrone & Partner, che si occupa anche di questo, bisogna capire che stranamente con la blockchain si riescono a identificare anche le diverse transazioni che sono state fatte con le cryptocurrency. Quindi comunque è una tematica molto riconosciuta dal punto di vista legale e burocratico qui nel Regno Unito. Se ne discute purtroppo anche in corte, perché ci sono dei problemi legati a queste frodi. È un mondo che si sta sempre di più affermando nel quotidiano, e vedremo quindi poi come si svilupperà sempre di più nel corso degli anni. Intanto ci tenevamo a fare il punto della situazione insieme all'avvocato Norton dello studio Giambrone & Partners, e noi lo ringraziamo e speriamo di poterne capire ancora di più pian piano che gli anni avanzano. Grazie mille ancora, avvocato Norton, per essere stato qui con noi su London One Radio.